Jiminy Cricket, has the past 2 weeks been emotional? Okay, keeping koi ain't easy. It's easy when it's good, but when it's good when it's good, but it's bad when it's bad. But thankfully, I'm at the tail end of the storm, coming out of it now. But well, I hope I'm coming out of it. The past 2 weeks has been challenging, but I've had mad support from Dave, which has been amazing, which I'll go into that later. But what has killed Marty? I came down about 10 days ago, and I seen at the surface something white, and I thought, what's that? It was like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, what's that? I couldn't really see 100% it was a fish. I walked, and then it was Marty, because he flipped round, and he started flipping and flipping and flipping and flipping. So then I thought, oh sugar plums, the temperature's gone up in the pond, because I know the temperature had just gone above 15 degrees. It had gone to like 16 degrees 10 days ago, because we got like a little bit of heat going on. So I raced out, popped him in the box, popped like a little air stone in there for him, but he didn't look in a great shape. He really didn't. He didn't fight getting into the net. He showed no resistance. He did not look great at all, which turned out to be his final moments, to be honest, because when I put him in the bowl, he was doing a little bit of breathing, and then he just passed, because when I was inspecting the gills, which is basically, I'm led to believe, like sticking your fingers down someone's throat, they'll get a gag reflex and the fish will sort of startle, they won't like it. And a little bit further on, like an hour later, I did that, and Marty just didn't react. And at that point, I'm thinking he's gone. I did try and give him a little bit longer. But anyway, so I'm going to crop in the video now, but I'm just going to talk about what I saw. So as the temperature had gone above 16, and as you know, parasites, bacterial issues, anything can emerge, starts to come to the surface in your pond that has been dormant in the winter. So when I see this, I panic, and then when I look at Marty, as you'll see from these pictures and videos, I've seen his dorsal fin is actually, the first part had actually broke a bit of his fin and was red, and at that point I did honestly start to think I'd got a bacterial issue, and my blood pressure went up, and other things started to, and I started to panic a little bit. But thankfully I got on the phone to Dave, and he calmed me down, talked me through things, and just explained. It was just there as great guidance and support. And honestly, my head was a little bit on that day, but he talked calm, slow, methodical, and I got like a little something set up in the corner there to just sort of say how I'd approach this situation a little bit of fun in the future. But I've done well, by the way. I've done well in this situation. So, as the fish come up looking beautiful, and I'm going to talk about the new fish soon in a separate video, because they have been mesmeric, and I mean beyond belief. The plan came through with shining stars, or with gold dust, or koi dust, or whatever you want to call it. I am absolutely buzzing about those 3 new fish, and I've got a 4th one potentially on the way, which will involve you guys, like I said. But anyway, back to the issue at hand, because this isn't the nicest issue. I know I'm a little bit upbeat because I'm getting to the end of it, not because Marty's died, so it is 2 weeks later. So as you can see on this, he's got on the dorsal fin, he's got damage, and then underneath he's got a little bit on one of his bottom fins towards the ventage area. He's got a little bit of a red mark on there. So I was looking at that and I was starting to panic. So it didn't look like a bacterial issue, and I was observing the fish, and I could see a lot of the other fish flicking, like Wanda, Jaffa, White Walker, which someone is a White Walker fan. I'm quite happy about that, because he's not my favourite fish in that pond. But they were starting to flick, and I was seeing a lot of flicking coinciding with the temperatures rising right up. What does every pond keeper do when the fish start flicking? Scrape time. I hate scraping, but I do it because I love my fish. I should have done this earlier. I should, looking back on it, trying to develop a perfect plan, I should have maybe scraped them when the temperature went up. I aren't blessed with the most amount of time, but that's not an excuse. It's just something, an ideology. When something goes wrong, I like to try and review it in my head and see what I could have improved. And one of the things that I could have improved was maybe doing a few scrapes as the temperature rose, or systematically every 2 weeks as the temperature got above 10 degrees. But I didn't, and that cost me my fish. Also, that brings me on to the next issue, which was a stupid issue, right? I'd got my microscope, which is over there with a sloth, which I'll explain in a little bit. But I got my microscope. I was in my koi box, and I've got all my koi stuff upstairs, and it's all in one particular area. And this is what was missing: the power cable for my Apex Practitioner microscope, which I use for finding parasites. I couldn't find it anywhere. I was searching everywhere, up and down. Wife wasn't in. I lose things all the time. I have to ask the wife all the time where she's put things, because she puts things in random places, or I put things in random places and she knows where they are. Anyway, I lose things all the time. So I lost the lead. I blamed her, and I said, you've hid the lead. For 48 hours later, it was in the bed where I put it, so I had to suck it up and tell the wife I'm sorry. Now, I've got no microscope, or no working microscope. I've got no car to get around, so Dave said I could take the slides up to him and he'll inspect them. So I can't get to Dave's. Dave's busy because he's got a lot of people coming in the shop and a lot of appointments on that particular day, so he couldn't get down to me. I was left here on my own, and I was like, shit, what am I going to do? The fish are flicking like mad. Marty's dead. What am I going to do? So anyway, the decision was made that the only thing that I had got in the house, well, I've got a few things, but the only thing that was relevant to killing these parasites, because it didn't look like a bacterial issue at this particular point, was, unbelievably, this. And if you see some of my videos, or my previous videos on PP and how I killed my fish, I was absolutely terrified of using this, absolutely terrified. But thankfully, learning from my mistakes, I had this, which is the cure, or the antidote, or whatever you want to call it. It balances the PP back out, the hydrogen peroxide solution, and I had 3 bottles of this, simply because of what happened last time. So I'd always ensure, my koi tip would be, always make sure that you've got loads of this in when you're using PP, okay? But as you know, I had a little bit of anxiety, or I had a lot of anxiety with me going into using PP again. I was absolutely petrified. The reason why we chose to use PP is it was not a bacterial issue, or we didn't believe it to be a bacterial issue, and PP is like a last measure sort of thing, or an extreme measure, and it kills a lot of parasites off, but not Fluke. So I set about using my PP, and being hypervigilant, or not being hypervigilant, being a little bit nervous. Dave was great, and he said, I sent through my pond dimensions. He said the exact amount that I needed to use, which I'm not going to recommend to you. Watch an expert's video, or or even better, talk to a reputable koi dealer, which will help you with this. But Dave helped me with the measurements. I did it, triple checked it. I was happy. I even sent a picture over to Dave and said, does that look like the amount that I need? He was like, from a picture, yeah, I'd say so. So I was happy enough with that. I wasn't happy to be doing this, okay? But it was either survive or die for the fish, because they're flicking and one's already died. So we do need to treat them with PP to kill the parasites, with my reduced mobility to get out to get any alternatives, or get a microscope charger or anything. So it was literally on this day, it needed it to be addressed. So I positioned myself there. I brought the dining table in from the kitchen diner, other side of the house. I positioned myself right at the top there, so I was directly looking at the pond window. So I was going to work. I worked there for like 4 hours, watching the fish more than working, I will confess. And I tentatively went about the PP thing. But anyway, it was successful. I did 4 hours, and then 4 hours were probably the longest 4 hours of my entire bloody life doing that. The fish do start to look a little bit better after this. They obviously weren't happy at the PP thing, and it agitated them a little bit, but I think you'd be agitated if you had little crawly things crawling around you and they were dying off you, if you know what I mean. Okay, so day 2, I've got the car, I'm mobile. I get up in the morning, I've got the power cable, because she found it in the morning. As I've got the power cable and I've got the ability to get to the UK Nishigoi, I basically did about 4 scrapes of the fish. I did Wonder, I did White Walker, I did Jaffa, and I took those scrapes down to UK Nishigoi. Dave got on the microscope, and where he positions himself to have a look at his microscope is just inside. And I said, Dave, I'm just going to have a little look at the fish. As I take 2 steps into the sales area of the koi, which are beautiful, Dave says, come back here, John. So I came straight back. He says, you are riddled with Fluke. I said, oh, right. All right, and he showed me on the microscope his top dollar microscope, which was amazing and easy. And there was fluke everywhere, absolutely everywhere, because PP doesn't kill fluke. It's one of the only parasites, or one of the few parasites I'm led to believe that it doesn't attack and doesn't kill off. So I'd infested with fluke, and I believe that fluke doesn't kill a fish. It can irritate the out of a fish, but it's not really going to kill it straight away. Whereas Dave continued to look for a little bit on one slide, and bearing in mind I'd had PP in the pond, a successful PP treatment, and he found a little spinny mouse thing. It's like a little triangle. It looks like a mouse that's just running around, like spinning around like a little mouse. Chilodonella, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing that right. Chilodonella, is that correct? I'll try and pop it in the correct name of it below here. Anyway, that's a fish killer. That parasite, it's a fish killer. And Dave said, you need to get on this straight away. So get yourself home, take this with you. Formalin and Malachite premix. He said, this is what they used to use all the time back in the day. He says, we need to make sure that Chilodonella and other parasites that could potentially on there, we need to have that killed, because that Chilodonella can kill all your fish. And we've investigated one scrape and found Chilodonella, if I'm saying that right. Please don't laugh too much if I am pronouncing that wrong. I know what it looks like, I know how to kill it now, but I probably can't say it right. But it is what it is, isn't it? So anyway, bang that in. What happens when that goes in? Your UV, you have to turn off. As look at it, what is the best thing when you've got UV light off? Sunshine. We love sunshine. It was a beautiful week. And there was loads of sunshine coming into the pond, which in turn, as you know, would promote a serious algae growth. I've got to have the UV light off now for 7 days while I kill these parasites. But I want to kill them off because I don't want to kill my fish. And they're trying to kill my fish, I'm trying to kill them. So I will put up with green water for that. One thing as well, when I did inspect the fish after the FMP treatment, I did notice this, which is in Jaffa's fins. Very red fins. They're normally pure, beautiful, clear white. And I did panic at that moment. Again, my head flipped back to bacterial issues that could be dormant in the pond. But again, on taking it to Dave just said it looks like stress. I was panicking. He said it looks like stress. You can't be definitive, but he says it looks like the fish is stressed, because if you think about it, the fish has been through a hell of a bloody lot recently. It's been through PP, FMS, and then it was about to go through Fluke. And he said the Jaffa is probably just stressed, really stressed, but alive, and that's why we did the treatment. So yeah, the little red fins that are actually calming down now. All right, so I'll show you this actually. Look. There you can see, calmed right down. Anyway, 7 days that treatment takes. So 7 days later, on the Friday, I go back to Dave with a scrape of about 4 fish. At this point, we are, like I say, we are just tackling the Chilodonella. Like I say, if I'm not saying it right, it is what it is. You know what I mean, little mouse boy spinning round. We're killing him. Which doesn't sound nice when I put it like that. He's a nasty little bugger, and you have to kill him with fish, so I'm going to kill him. All right, but it looks like a little mouse, just in case you're looking at a microscope, and he like goes round in circles. It was really weird looking at it, to be honest. And he was really fast, so I might not have caught him, but Dave did. So I pop that treatment in. 7 days later, Dave's curious to see whether it has killed the fluke. This FMP, I'm going to call it, but you've seen the bottle, so you know what I'm talking about. He's curious to see whether it's killed the fluke off, or whether it's just killed all the other parasites, because that's not its designated job, I don't think, or its specific purpose that you'd use that for. So he wants to see whether it's killed it all off. He gets on the microscope and he has a hunt for a good while. Oh, to be honest, before I took it down there, the scrapes down there, I had a look and I couldn't see anything moving, but I didn't trust my own judgment, and it's great to have an expert have you back. I mean, absolutely amazing. I don't think I would have got through these past 2 weeks, certainly as well as keeping the 15 koi that I've got. I may have lost more, I may have had a meltdown, who knows. So anyway, on the microscope, Dave looks at the microscope after I've looked at it. I thought I'd seen nothing. Dave looks at the microscope and he inspects it, and he looks and he says, I can see carcasses, or you can see carcasses of Fluke, the Fluke that was on there. You can see like the dead bodies of them, so the koi haven't actually flicked them off just yet. I was like, wow, that's actually what I thought I saw when I looked through my microscope. So I actually felt a little bit better then. But then Dave goes one step further, and he gets he's got this microscope, super microscope I'll call it, and he finds an egg, or a fluke egg, pulsating, gently pulsating. I'm not talking like it was there going like that, which looks a little bit weird. It was going like really, you know, like super slow motion. I would never ever have seen this pulsing. But he said, right, so what's happened now is we've killed the fluke, we killed the Chilodonella or whatever it's called, we killed all the parasites off, and we killed the fluke, but the fluke have laid eggs, and the eggs haven't been able to be killed by the FMP, which isn't the koi fish police. So now we're going to go and attack the eggs of the flukes that have been laid on the fish, because otherwise, if them eggs start hatching and then they start breeding and multiplying faster and faster and faster and faster on the koi, we'll just be back at that same stage. So it's important that we kill those eggs off so the fluke don't re-emerge. To which, Dave, give me this. I say give me, I bought Fluke P. Okay, so that is currently what is in the pond right now. All right, and I'll take you out in a second because you'll look at the surface and you'll see a mild, like, bubbling on the surface. That's because we're on day 2, or we are 50 hours. We are 50 hours into our Fluke P treatment. It also involves the UV light going off. But thankfully, the weather has calmed down a little bit. My pond temperature is currently at 15.7, which is lower than it's been recently. But then again, it is first thing in the morning today because it's the first chance I've had to do a video for you guys to show you sort of like what's happening. So now, all things crossed, and eyes, ears, legs, nose, anything else you can think of that dangles that you can make into a cross, get on it, and I just hope that we can, get through killing these parasites off and having the end of them gone is what I want, because I do believe that I was absolutely riddled with parasites, and that is what's killed Marty, because he's been so agitated. I think he's been flicking, smashed his head on something, and it's just killed him. And unfortunately, this is the negative side of keeping koi. A lot of people, I don't think, share what koi they've got or name them or put them out there on YouTube as much as I do, because things like this happen in the hobby, and it is dark, it is horrible. I was ultra excited to be watching the Sumi and the Benny coming through on his head. I would have loved to have seen that. It was like literally a lot of you guys had commented to say how beautiful that ISA show was, how beautiful Marty was, and he was beautiful. He was sensational, and the future looked bright for him. But the parasites have killed him. There is things that I could have done earlier, that I should have done, could have done, would have done, but at the end of the day, I didn't do them. And I am talking being extremely hypercritical on myself, but you grow through what you go through. That's a saying that I have, that I learned, and that's the best koi keepers, or the best. You can't be an expert at something if you haven't experienced, and I'm not an expert at koi keeping, by the way, so if you're watching this video and you're expecting someone me to tell you everything and read a book to you and tell you I know all this stuff, you're on the wrong channel, because I ain't an expert. I've kept one pond, oh no, 2 ponds, because I had the sunken one, but I've had one garden with, throughout it, probably about 30 fish. What have I had, 30 fish-ish? Something like that, go through my pond, of which I have encountered numerous problems, which I hope that you guys can learn from. I certainly am learning from it, and that's why I include these things. Like I say, it's awful to lose Marty. Awful, awful. But there is a positive side to it. Not a positive side to it. A, I've learned. B, Dave supported me amazingly good at UK Nishigai. Don't blame your wife for something that you've done. And also, I've got a little sloth boy there, which I thought was funny. Little sloth on the microscope, because with that, the reason why I put him there, sloth boy, the reason why I put him on the microscope is because when you do that, you've got to be patient, you've got to be slow, you've got to be methodical, and you've got to take your time, because especially if you're a beginner like me and not used to it, you may miss something like a pulsing fluke egg, which Dave didn't miss. Okay, so just take your time, make sure you got a microscope, make sure you do your checks. And in relation to the monkey with the PP and the FMP or whatever it's called, and the hydrogen peroxide, that's because you shouldn't be monkeying around with this. It's dangerous, guys. It is dangerous. You can kill your fish, and it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hobby. This pond does amazing things for me. It slows my brain right down. It's calm, it's tranquil, it's swimming jewels. They're beautiful to just watch glide around. And another thing that I've got to tell you is I am massively excited about this one. Okay, I'm going to leave it to a new video, but I'm basically, I've spotted another fish, which happens to everyone when you go to dealers, but this fish is a little bit special, and it's got something to do with you. Do you remember when my wife made me abandon the plans for what I was going to do with Sunshine? Well, we're going to do it with this fish. All right, so you paid for it, it's named after you, and well, you didn't pay for it all, actually. In this case, you paid for part of it, and it's going to be named after you. All right, so I know that's like a mystic thing, but the next video will be coming out hopefully very, very, very soon, and we'll be talking about the amazing effects that the 3 new fish have had, and the plan of action that I have made to make my pond friendlier has worked a treat. I know it doesn't look like it right now, but they're all in bed because they don't do mornings. They're like me, they're grumpy little buggers. But in the afternoon and evening, them fish are rampant. All right, so I hope you have a great day. I hope maybe you've learned something from this, or maybe you've laughed, or maybe you've just thought, what a plant pot that guy is. Whatever you've thought, I hope you've had a good time, and I hope you've enjoyed watching it. Koi Fish Johnny, I'll see you on the next one, baby. Mwah.